Hey, it's Jen with J Vinco, and I'm coming to you today with a little bit of a different video. I just wanted to take a couple steps back. I'm usually doing glue booking and journaling type videos. Sometimes I do some magazine harvests, and I wanted to do a video because sometimes people are asking about the glue book process and how the even thinking process comes about for how to make a glue book or how to journal or any of that stuff. And so I just wanted to talk about it. So let's talk about how to glue book. So first of all, what is glue booking? Glue booking, typically people are talking about just gluing images down from magazines that they're cutting out. So I have, so I will, if you've seen any of my magazine harvest videos, I go through magazines and I look for things that stand out to me, things that I like, and I cut them out. And sometimes I'm cutting them out as like a background item, or I'm cutting them out to use as like a fussy cut image to kind of stick out. So some people have glue books where they've just filled up the entire page like this, using blocks in the background and then putting things that they've fussy cut out on top of them. And then sometimes people are just putting a few things here and there. Sometimes their glue book has a theme like rainbow, or some of this is holiday. Some of this book is just random stuff toward the back. I'm not too hung up on what exactly on it having a consistent theme necessarily, because I just want to be able to have some flexibility. So when I feel like doing holiday stuff, I've got some pages for that in the front. And then when I feel like just, you know, having stuff that doesn't fit holiday, then I can just put some in the back here. And then I have pages in the middle. This was a composition notebook that I covered, and I tore some pages out because once you start gluing stuff on, it's going to get thicker. So I tore some pages out, and then I still have some pages in the middle of the book that are still notebook paper, and they're not glued together or anything. And so on some of these, I will probably block the background or put a background on and then put something on, and I could still end up tearing some of these out. Like I said, your book will get thicker as you glue. One thing I learned from Nicole from Relax Cut Glue is if you start gluing in backgrounds or start gluing anything in, really, if you do it all from the front back, your spine is going to curve, and it's kind of annoying. So it's a good idea to like do a page in the front and do a page in the back, do pages in the middle, so that the spine kind of stays stable and doesn't start curling around. So mine started doing that because I started working from the front, but then I started gluing in backgrounds in the back of the book, and then I worked in the middle a little bit, so it kind of corrected itself a little bit. Anyway, so that's a form of glue booking. I have a second glue book that I'm having trouble getting here. So in order to kind of give myself some flexibility for what I want to do, sometimes I like to collect a lot of a certain type of image, and then I want to do a theme page. And I also like, this book has pretty big pages, so I have a lot of room to maneuver. The spine really, you know, I guess I would prefer not to have a spiral, but it kind of makes things easier, and when you're working in it, you can put it so that just the page that you're working on is up front, and it gives you some leeway. Obviously you can go up to the edge of where these punched out holes are on the edge, but yeah, so this one, like, this is kind of just funny images to me, so I put those together on a page. Cats, obviously, drinks, and fruit. This side, so I'm gluing on the right side. It's kind of easier. It kind of sticks out to me as the side I am typically drawn to glue on. However, I keep collecting images for things that I've already made a page on, so then I can spill over and make a second page if I want, and then it will be kind of a two-page thing. So this book, I like the idea of themes. I might do a page with a certain color, like maybe even make a little rainbow section in this book, or sometimes I keep a running list of theme ideas, like things I'm seeing as I'm cutting things out of magazines, and then I might end up putting a page like that in this book. So I don't only use my images for glue booking. Sometimes I use them in journaling. And so let me grab, here is my daily journal from last year that I didn't finish. And I wasn't working in it daily because that's pretty hard to do. But I will use magazine pages, pictures and stuff that I cut out from magazines in my layouts. And just finding things that are relevant. And so sometimes when I'm looking through a magazine, I will see something that is relevant to what's going on, and I'm like, oh, I can use that in my journal. And then sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes I'm actively searching the magazines for things, for specific things like cleaning supplies or whatever, to use in my book. So I also use stickers, and sometimes I draw things or use markers and different pens and tip things in. Tipping in is when you tape in kind of an extra piece, and you can use that for more journaling space is what you're usually doing, why you're usually doing that. Anyway, so it's really fun to I guess because there are images glued in here, this isn't exactly a glue book. I mean, it's a journal because I'm journaling in it, but I do use a lot of the images that I find to glue book, or I use them in my journal instead. Again, I can't really do that daily, but I can keep my glue booking supplies kind of ready to go for whatever I want to use them for. So like I said, in that theme book, I will sometimes put together, this is my folder. It's just a page that I ripped out of this glue book. And so I have a stack of paper that I ripped out of there. And sometimes I will use that as scratch paper or to glue on or to make a little folder. So as I cut out drinks or clocks or cats or jewels, I kind of just put them in these so that I can find them more easily. And there's a lot. I still have a very full basket of stuff that I haven't processed, but that I harvested from magazines, and I will get to that stuff eventually and put it where it goes, or just pull some of it out to use in glue books. And so that was a really long-winded approach, or long-winded discussion for what glue booking is, and I guess I talked about approaches. Some people just want to glue stuff. They don't really care how it looks, or they're just kind of just wanting the physical act of gluing stuff in there, and so they're just kind of taking whatever, putting whatever together. Or sometimes they're kind of having, some thought about what would go together. I tend to be a little more neurotic than that, and so I'm looking for things that really speak to me to put together, and not just gonna glue any old thing down. Plus, a lot of times I like the backgrounds that I've picked, and so I want to make sure I can still see a little bit of the background. All right, so how to get started glue booking. If you've never glue booked, or you have tried and it's kind of difficult and causing you some frustration, first thing is, don't stress. I know it's easy to fall into that perfectionist mentality, or I wouldn't even know where to start, kind of a thing. And that can be a little bit paralyzing. And I have fallen into that category a number of times too. And so the best advice I can give you is give yourself room to make something ugly, just to try things out. What's really cool about that is, if you do make something ugly and it's in your book and you're like, oh, I wish I didn't have that ugly thing in there. One, with glue booking, you can cover it up and glue something over it. Two, if you leave it there, it's kind of a nice documentation of how you've progressed. So you can be like, oh man, this is ugly, but it gets better. And then you can get to where, but this, compared to that, is really awesome. And you can own it. You can own that you made some ugly pages before you figured out what you were doing. Plus, you can, like I said, do stuff over that to kind of fix it if you want to. So try not to stress. That really like can stand in our way from the creative process. And it's supposed to be fun, like glue booking. People who tend to glue book and like aren't too concerned about what it looks like, they just want to glue stuff on a paper. Um, they're just doing that because it's relaxing. You know, it's kind of it's a fun, relaxing thing to do. I like to put thought into it to really end up liking what I'm looking at later. And then the fun part about that is you have something tangible at the end that you can put on your shelf and take it off and look at it when you want to. So show it to people and be like, look at this really ugly page I made, and now look at this awesome page I made. You know, if you like to share, everybody likes show and tell. You know, we were all kids. So, so my tip on when you're starting and like harvesting from magazines, just look through that magazine with the eyes of looking for what sticks out to you, what you think is pretty or cool or cute, and then cut it out. So like things I wouldn't have gone into glue booking thinking, oh, I'm gonna cut out drinks, but they always stick out to me. I'm like, ooh, that drink looks really cool. That looks nice. That glass looks nice. I like those colors. I like colorful stuff. So usually I'm kind of drawn to colorful stuff, and I try to give myself permission, like just cut it out. It's not gonna hurt. Just cut it out, put it in your basket. So like these flowers, I just cut these out on my last magazine harvest video. I don't use a lot of flowers, but a lot of people do. A lot of people are drawn to plants and flowers. But I cut these out because they're colorful and it's, you know, getting sick of winter. It's almost spring. And so I just figured I might put these in the background of something. And that's why I cut them out. So find what you like. As far as like page layouts, again, give yourself room to make some ugly stuff because design doesn't just come naturally to everybody, and some things look good together and some things don't. And we're not always going to just know that at a glance if something will work together or not. So a lot of times when I'm trying to figure out how to lay something out, so we'll go to, where is that page? This. Okay. This is kind of strange page, obviously. So how I started laying this page out is this background page, so this dinosaur isn't part of this picture. This astronaut is not part of the picture. It just looks like a diorama, a picture of a diorama, and it's fairly simple and it's got bright colors, and so that stood out to me, so I cut it out of the magazine. And it's pretty big, so it would take up most of a page. So I like that, and I was like, that could be a background that I would maybe put some small stuff on because I don't want to cover everything up. Then I'm like, it's not long enough for this page, so I'm going to have to put something on the bottom. So I started with that background piece. And then I didn't want what was on the bottom to be super busy, but I didn't want it to blend right into this. So I didn't pick another green because that would have blended. I picked this kind of fabric pattern because I felt like it was middle of the road. It didn't blend, but it's not so distracting that you don't notice anything else. Then, oh, the power went out. Hold on a second. Well, I'm terribly sorry about that. That was super weird. The power went out and then it came back on after a little while. I guess they just had a power outage in our area, but that was kind of off-putting, and that was actually a few days ago. So I'm back, and I put on the same jacket and rings for continuity purposes. So here we go. So I had just said that I didn't want these to blend too much, but and not be distracting, but I put, you know, what I thought would look okay together. And then this car, I just felt like it kind of looks like they're at a drive-in, and I kind of like the way that looked. It had this flat edge over here, and actually it has a flat edge right here too, which isn't super noticeable to me, but eventually I might put something over that. I might have another fussy cut item like this, for instance. I probably won't put this guy there. I want to find, I really like this. I really like this little prairie dog or whatever this is. So I want to put him somewhere that he really fits well. But anyway, I could put something fussy cut over that to kind of cover the fact that it's a flat edge and make it blend. But anyway, my point is, my thought process for how I want something to look, I might have some ideas. Like I said at the beginning of this explanation, this background, I just figured I would put a couple of small fussy cut things over it, but I wanted to leave a lot of that background. But then I just kind of try things out. So I happened to see this in my cutouts, and I was like, well, that looks like it would fit, and that looks like it would look like a drive-in. So it's not like a grand plan that I have from the beginning, but it kind of comes together as I try things out. So I would just lay different things down and see what looks good together. So let's see. What else do I need to talk about? I talked about don't stress. You can let small things grow to be your inspiration. So like this guy, that's not a good example because I don't know what I'm going to do with him yet. Let me go back to this page. So I had this picture of these cliff dwellings and this bear looking at through binoculars, and he's got kind of like a cut diamond-esque kind of background to him. So for some reason that kind of made me think of constellations. He kind of looks like a constellation a little bit. And so I was like, that'd look really cool with a star background. And then I like that he's looking through these binoculars, and I felt like, oh, he could be looking down at the cliff dwellings, and there could be a little guy on there. So it really just, like, as you cut things out, other ideas kind of spark from those. And again, not stressing is what kind of allows that to happen. Just setting things together and seeing what you like, can make a world of difference. Just trying out different things. The reason I cut out colorful pieces and just like small squares of them sometimes is because I might just block a background like that on a blank page. So I might just go through this basket. This basket is mostly background kind of stuff, or pieces of color or whatever, just things I could use in the background. So I could cut this rectangle with this silver ball and put that on there, and then maybe I like the blue with it, and then maybe I like to change things up and put some different colors. Or if I want to pick like 3 colors that I feel like go really well together and then find background pieces that go with that. Or I could do monochromatic. I mean, I could just go for blue and then just find different variations of blue, and I would put things next to each other that aren't super close in what they look like. And then it kind of makes it dynamic, and you can do a lot with that. I have water, and I have sky pictures, and like really bright blues and some really plain blues. These even, like, I like, it's got all these colors in a row with these sweaters. So I would probably cut off this edge or cover this edge because it has the names of the colors there. But and I would probably cut off the top, so then it would just look like colors and then have the texture of the sweater. Oh, there went a motorcycle, if you heard that. And so I like that as like a, I don't know, like a rainbowy looking strip of the background, and then you don't have to cut quite as many blocks. So you can really do whatever. I don't remember what magazine it is, maybe Better Homes and Gardens or something, but they like show room designs, and they have these paint pot like circular pictures of the different colors, and they'll usually have 4 different ones, and they're different sizes on a page, and they're showing like the color composition that goes with that page. And so I cut those out because I think, I might use those as a background to putting all those circles down. So there's a lot you can do there with blocking a background, and you can cut things to whatever size you want. I mean, I could cover up half of the page with this and then do different blocks, or a solid over here. You know, really whatever you want to do, whatever works for what you're doing. But you can start with the background and then find stuff that goes on it, like I did with that, with this one. I did start with the background. Or you can start with the pieces and then look for a background that you feel kind of goes with them. So there's, you know, any options. The other thing too is like you can use stickers on your compositions. Usually they're not huge, so they would end up being kind of like one of the fussy cut components you would put on a page. But like this antiquarian sticker book, so there's a lot of pages where the background color is what is the border color on the sticker, but then there are some where they're white or, you know, just different colors. If you want on a sticker, you could always just cut off the border or most of the border, and then it won't look like a sticker necessarily. It'll just look like the picture. And that's what I tend to do in a glue book, because I don't really want it to look like a sticker per se. So, and then like I talked about on this one, just looking for balance. Sometimes a page looks kind of weird if it isn't balanced. And the good thing, if you end up using scrapbook paper as your backgrounds, most of the time, or probably all of the time, the books of scrapbook paper that you pick, not all the time, the books that you pick, they have matched the colors. They already have like a color scheme that fits together. So in theory, you could pick any page and another page from that same book and they will go together. So here's an example, this little 6x6 paper pad. These all use the same color scheme, so they will match if you use two of these pages together, because they used the same color palette. So that's a cool thing that makes it easier if you, like me, are kind of challenged with how to match things, because that does not come naturally to me. It's easy for me to use books of scrapbooking paper that are already matched. And you don't have to use scrapbooking paper, obviously, for the background. Some scrapbooking paper is really thick. Cardstock, like these are pretty thick. But there are the books of scrapbook paper that are regular thin, like they feel like copy paper. Those are kind of easier to use. They don't make the book quite, like, don't make the pages quite as thick. But I'm okay with thick pages, and like I said toward the beginning about ripping out pages, I could end up ripping out more pages if I feel like it's just getting way too thick. But I ripped a ton of pages out of this book already, so I don't think it's going to go overboard even if I fill up all the rest of the blank pages in here. Now I just wanted to address tools and supplies real quick. So typically I am using just a regular pair of scissors that I like. Some scissors are smoother than others, like how they work. So some of the cheaper ones you buy don't work quite as well, but I think this was a cheap pair. I don't think it was super expensive. And it just cuts smoother, or it doesn't have any, like, I have another pair that seems like it needs sharpening, or there's like some parts that aren't consistent on the blade, and so it doesn't cut quite as well. So they don't cut quite as well. So those work pretty well. I have pencils getting stuck. I have a pair of fussy cut scissors. So these are really a short blade, and they make it easier to do turns and do like intricate cutting. I've said this in a video before. If I have a long flat edge on a picture, then I will, even if I'm fussy cutting, I might use these scissors, because if I use my fussy cut scissors, then I have to make a bunch of little cuts, and it's less likely that this is going to end up straight. It's probably going to look a little bit jagged or not very straight. But if I use this and just do like one cut or two cuts, then it stays straighter. So that's something to consider when you're fussy cutting. Even if you're fussy cutting, sometimes the regular pair of scissors will work for certain parts. Another supply is I tend to use a bone folder like to smush down the images that I'm gluing, just to try and get any bubbles out or any extra glue to mush out when I'm smoothing it down. You can obviously just use your hands for that if you want. I would recommend working from the center out so that you don't end up getting things trapped or having it wrinkle or go uneven. You kind of want to push outward when you're gluing things down. Obviously you need a glue stick or some kind of glue for glue booking. So here's the thing. If things are thicker, like the scrapbook paper if it's thick scrapbook paper, I'm probably going to use some liquid glue to stick that down, because thicker things need a little bit stronger adhesive, and they don't really warp from having wet glue on them because they're so thick. So it is a good idea maybe to use liquid glue when you're gluing down something thick like cardstock scrapbooking paper. The glue stick won't hold that down as well. But if you use wet glue on like magazine images, they will wrinkle and warp pretty easily because of that extra fluid in there. So a glue stick is way better for magazine or thin paper. So that's something to keep in mind. I use permanent. There are permanent glue sticks, and there are repositional or temporary glue stick types of glue. So I use permanent, which doesn't give me a lot of chance to like scoot things around when I glue them down. So you have to be careful about that. But I feel like the temporary or repositional, obviously it's temporary, so it doesn't stay down as well. So that's why I don't use temporary really. Let's see what else. You can get like a corner rounder. So I have a corner rounder, but this is a small corner rounder, so this won't really work as well on these corners. They fit, but it's a little bit narrow. Composition books have a wider corner round. So there is a large corner rounder you could get, and if you want to just be able to clip the corners. That's what Nicole does on Relax Cut Glue. And then, sky's the limit. Getting magazines for harvest. You can cut things out of books. There are ephemera books you can order like on Amazon, like this guy. That'll just have things you can cut out. You can get you could get books from thrift stores or anything like that. Catalogs, and there are free catalogs you can order. And then stickers. I have so many stickers. I wouldn't even be able to find the same sticker twice probably. But stickers are good for glue books, especially for like small details once the page is mostly done. And like I said, I'll probably find some stickers to put on here, hopefully, that go with it. But and then washi tape. Sometimes some people put washi tape on the edges, and some people put it in the middle, or both. Sometimes you use it as a decoration on your page. But washi tape, when you've been ripping out pages, it is a good idea to put some tape. You could put clear Scotch tape if you don't want the design, but if you do find a design that works, you can just put it down the middle. I would recommend putting glue stick, permanent glue, on the washi tape so that it stays, because washi tape has pretty weak adhesive on purpose so that it can come off. It's just like masking tape, but so better to glue it. But when you glue in this crevice here with the washi tape, it kind of holds it together better and keeps the book more secure. So it is a good idea to use washi tape. I'm trying to think what other... like I said, I keep a running list just on my desk of different themes that I might want to use in my theme glue book. And obviously you need a book. So this is a cheap composition book, like $1 or $2 or something like that, just a regular composition book. The Dollar Tree does have composition books, and they have some with more interesting covers. But I think it's really fun to pick something you like to put on the cover. So I would want to cover it anyway. that other book, my other glue book, is a multimedia. This is where the sketchbooks are in like a Michaels or whatever, but sometimes you can get these 2 for 1 or whatever and get a pretty good price on them. And these do come smaller. This is 9 by 12, but they do have another size below this and then an even smaller one below this. And there might even be a bigger one than this, but that'd be a little crazy. I don't know where I would keep a bigger one. So this is a pretty good size for me. Or the smaller one is a little bit less to commit to. And then as far as my journals go, I know this was very heavy on glue booking, but my journals, I tend to get, these are like the Fauxbonichi, what are these called? Oh, good question. What is this? Stalogy. This is a Stalogy. This is a half-year Stalogy. It says it right on the right on the cover. And this is a full year Stalogy, so it's meant to be like a yearly journal or date book or whatever, but the pages are blank. They're a certain type of paper that I don't know what it's called. It's got grid on it that's really light colored, but this paper holds up pretty well, but it's still pretty thin, so it's a good thing to use for a daily journal. This went flying out of here. Sometimes I'll find stuff that I want to use, and I'll just tuck it in there for when I get to use it later, then I don't lose track of it. Yeah, so I think that's mostly it. Oh, I do have also an X-Acto blade and a little cutting mat. I got both of these from the dollar store, so they were each $1.25. This comes with 6 different blade types in it. This isn't X-Acto brand, but it works just fine. This is good for if I'm cutting the center out of an image or doing real intricate cutting, but otherwise I typically use just my scissors. And then you can get creative too if you want to go a little further with supplies. You can get punches. So, you know, you could use punches kind of creatively with cutting out different colors or different patterns and using them on a background. And then in your journaling, you can get any kind of pens. I mean, I have some Tombos. I have just Crayola, whatever these are called. They're not very expensive. I have like pigment liner pens that are different thicknesses, so you can make thicker letters or thinner letters. I have like white paint markers, my pencils, and sometimes it's good to have a ruler. And when you're harvesting from a magazine, sometimes like just having a ruler and then tearing out the page, you can still get a pretty straight tear with using a ruler. So that's about it for supplies. I mean, you don't need a ton of stuff to get started. So I know getting started is kind of hard if you've never done it and it just seems kind of weird, but just grab a magazine, grab a pair of scissors, and start finding stuff that stands out to you that you like. And again, give yourself permission to make something ugly. That's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to go over my thought process in case that helps anyone about how to approach this if you're new to it, or even if have been doing this for a while and you're kind of hung up on it. One last tip I will give you is that sometimes I get a product that comes in a clear bag, and sometimes I will tape that to the edge of my table so that I can just throw trash in there. I also keep a basket on my table that I can easily just put trash into, because once you start cutting stuff out, you're gonna have like scraps of paper everywhere. And I also try to organize my magazines. I don't want to get rid of them after the first time I go through them, because I might have someone else who wants to go through them, or I might want to go through them again later and look for different stuff that I wasn't noticing the first time. So I try to keep those organized as well. Keep a box for magazines that I haven't gone through yet that are new, magazines I have gone through, and then magazines that I'm fine with giving away. So you can make these very complex systems to keep track of your stuff. And I guess one more thing to address is how to organize all of your stuff. So the way I do it is, I'm going to drop some stuff on the floor here. is I have this big bin for things I have fussy cut already or that are ready to go on the page. This isn't necessarily fussy cut, but it's as cut as I'm going to do with it, and so it's pretty much ready to be glued down. So these things are all fussy cut. Then, and they're general. I do have other fussy cut stuff specifically that I set aside for this book. So they're more holiday related things. So it's really specifically for this book that I set these things aside. There are fussy cut pieces in here, and there are like block pieces in case I want to use them for the background. And there are probably some phrases and words in here because they're for this. This I kind of started setting aside. I have more big pieces that I might end up using in this book, but they weren't fussy cut or ready to go, so I put them aside in a different, this is a box lid from like a photo box. Then I decided to start putting my little folders for my themed glue book in there, so those are easier to find. This basket is some background stuff, as I showed you, and this just kind of stays on top of my desk. And then right underneath it I have a basket of words and phrases that I might use, and some of them are fussy cut out a little bit and some of them are not. But I have separate, then I have all of these, I'm not saying this is the best system, I'm just saying this is my system. So I have then a bunch of these that I have labeled for specific things. So I think I have small words, big words, animals, people, household stuff. I have a random one, I have a food one. So sometimes when I start going through my basket full of stuff that I haven't really processed, that I've just harvested and set in the basket, sometimes I will separate some of it out and put it in these boxes so I can find it easier in theory. And then last, for the organization stuff, I do have a few larger containers. So these I got from Amazon. I think they're like 9 by 11 or something like that, 9 by 12 storage boxes. And so anything that's kind of big, I put in these because they won't really fit in the smaller photo storage boxes. You can also get some page protectors, and you could keep things in there that are kind of themed or whatever without having to spend to get all those little boxes. And these are good because they stay flat, so you can put these in a binder. But I put holiday stuff in here at one point, and then you can put full page size stuff in here as well. So these are a pretty good option too if you want to separate your stuff out into different themes. Okay, so that's it. Long-winded video. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Otherwise, I hope this will be helpful in getting you started on glue booking if you're trying to get started, or maybe give you some tips on how to make it easier. And thank you so much for watching my videos. I hope to see you on my next one. Thank you for subscribing, and I hope everyone is enjoying their day. Take care.